Hi, I'm Ben Silverio.
I'm Erin Cline.
And I'm Ansel Burch, your host in post.
And it's time to party.
We are not doctors and we don't give medical advice. Please drink responsibly.
Yeah, welcome to our podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
I'd say long time no see, but this is the first time, really, right?
Yeah, welcome. Let us introduce you to our podcast. Thank you for listening to it.
Yeah, it's after knowing Erin for some years and realizing that we were both fans of time travel movies, we thought it was about time that we did a podcast together.
Wow, there's not going to be that many puns, I promise. Thank you.
Oh, man. I can't make that promise. I can't.
Well, I promise there won't be that many puns from me, so stick around, everybody. So what we wanted to do with this podcast is, like Ben said, we both really enjoy time travel media, and that's something that we really enjoyed talking about. One of the ways that Ben and I got to know each other is that he had me on one of his podcasts so that I could talk about Back to the Future. And so this is a thing that has been a foundational part of our friendship for a while now. And so when Ben asked me if I wanted to do a podcast about time travel, I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So the way that our podcast is going to be working is that there will be 3 episodes for each of the movies or pieces of media that we're consuming. We'll start off with a drinking and smoking game. We'll give you rules for every time you should take a hit, or roll a blunt, or pass the joint, or take a shot, or drink your beer, or finish your drink. Variety. We've got lots of variety inside of the smoking and drinking games. So we'll do those first.
That way, if you've seen the movie that we're talking about already, this gives you another reason to rewatch it.
And if you haven't seen the movie that we're going to be talking about before we get to the second episode, where we'll be talking about the movie, how it holds up, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, etc., etc. You know how movie reviews go. That way, you can drink or smoke along before we get to that episode, so that you can be up to date with us if you have not seen the movie before, or like Ben said, you'd like to enjoy it for an additional time.
And then we move on to episode 3, which is, this is the doozy, the edutainment section.
Edutainment!
I wish you could see the hand motions that we were doing during when we say edutainment.
I bet if you think about it and you listen to the way that our voices sound, you can picture the hand movements.
Yeah. You guys have imagination. We believe in you.
It's the edutainment section. In the edutainment section, we'll each be picking a piece of technology or something from the movie that we thought was interesting and we wanted to know more about. And before we record, after we watch these movies, we do a little bit of a... It's not a deep dive. Let's not pretend it's a deep dive. It's a shallow dive, or as I like to call it, a trip down the lazy river of edutainment. So you can just hang back and let us edutain you about all kinds of weird shit, to be honest.
But let me warn you about this lazy river of edutainment, because my level of lazy river is like your local water park, like at the playground, at the rec center in your town, and Erin is like that Avatar ride in Epcot at Disney World. So, I mean,
I just really like the edutainment section. I think it's cool. I'm Marge Simpson holding the potato, only it's the edutainment section and me going, I just think it's neat. It's everything I talk about.
And it is so neat. It's just, Erin is much better at edutaining than I am.
It's true. I think I probably have more practice, to be honest, so can't hate on that. All right.
Speaking of that,
yes.
We should totally tell them about us, right?
You read my mind. Absolutely. Ben, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell the people who you are.
I am Ben F. Silverio, hailing from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but residing in Chicago, Illinois, where I met the lovely Enigma Erin Cline.
Hey.
Previously, I was the creator of a radio, YouTube, podcast show called The Pretentious Film Majors, where my friend Zachary Shevich and I got together and decided that we wanted to talk about movies and go to film festivals and have a good time when we were in college, generally. That evolved into my employment at sciencefiction.com, where I was the head writer for a number of years, where I got to dive even further into pop culture and all that stuff. And the podcast that I had Erin on was called Post Credits, where I talked about general entertainment stuff. So, as you can see, basically I just took the long way around of telling you that I'm a big nerd.
It's true. Yeah, that's fine. It's part of your charming personality.
Aw.
Ah. And I, your other host, I'm Erin Cline. I host 2 other podcasts. My first podcast is Not Your Demographic, a formerly feminist wrestling podcast. I don't know, we used to have a tag on the end of it. We don't really talk about wrestling anymore, so I'm not really sure.
Surprisingly, those exist.
Yeah, surprisingly, that used to exist, and shockingly, we would rather talk about anything except wrestling anymore after 5 years of talking about wrestling. So now in Not Your Demographic, we mostly talk about books and politics and still wrestling occasionally, and mostly it's just a shoot the shit podcast with my co-host Stella Cheeks. And then my other podcast is X-Trex. It's a show where Stella Cheeks and I show each other. She shows me Star Trek the original series and I show her the X-Files, and we talk about their cultural impact and what the fandoms have been like over the last 20 to forever many years, it feels like, with Star Trek. So I'm also very fluent in cultural context. I majored in popular culture in college, and so it's a thing that I care a lot about. And when Ben asked me if I wanted to talk about time travel, I was like, fuck yeah, I want to talk about time travel. I think it's fun. I think it's neat. So that's who I am. I podcast a lot. I read a lot of books. I'm a jack of all trade in many ways.
Erin saying she reads a lot of books is like an iceberg of a statement where it just gets...
Yes, that's true. It is an iceberg of a statement. You're correct. People are like, wow, I see you read a lot of books. And it's like, yes, you do see me read a lot of books. You also do not see me read a lot of books because I read. Also, it's a pandemic and I'm in my home all the time. And so all I do is fucking read, it feels like. Anytime I'm annoyed at work, I'm like, I'll just take 10 minutes and read this book. So it's true. I do a lot of reading. That is a very accurate statement.
Yes.
Ben.
And we are also joined by another incredible person. He's like the Roz to our Frasier. He's our host and post, Ansel Burch.
Hi, like Ben said, yeah, I'm your host and post. I'll be jumping in every once in a while with little sides, good clarifications. I'm the producer for this show, but I'm also the producer for a comedy variety show called Starlight Radio Dreams. I also host a web series on YouTube and Twitch called The Dungeon Barkeep.
So, Erin, now that they know who we are,
yes,
let's give them a little more of who we are, quote unquote. Erin, how have you been spending your time?
I mean, it's a pandemic, so I've been spending my time inside, not doing a whole lot, to be honest. Yeah, like I said, I've been reading a lot. I've been trying not to get overwhelmed by the state of politics in our country.
Oof.
Ish results on that. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is a thing that everyone says now. We're in a weird time where it's like kind of hard to say, like, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm busy all the time. And also it feels like I do nothing all day. I've been taking a lot of baths. It's not a thing I've ever done before. I was never a bath person, but now I have a place that I live that has a jet tub, so now I take a lot of baths. So that's what I've been getting into is I used a bath bomb for the first time the other day and was like, oh, okay, I get it, okay. I took a 7 a.m. bath the other day and used a bunch of like foam powder, and my husband walked into the bathroom and it was just like this moment where we stared at each other of like, are you in the bath at like 8 in the morning? Like, yes I am. So that's
Treat yourself.
Exactly. That's what I've been doing all the time. Part of it is because I'm old and my body hurts all the time. So I also have that excuse now. I'm like, it's a medicinal thing for sure. How are you, Ben? How have you been spending your time?
Well, last night I caught up on a lot of wrestling.
Fantastic. Another thing Ben and I have in common, and one of the things that we became better friends about, is that I ran a wrestling podcast and we used to go to wrestling shows together a lot. So wrestling is a thing that we may reference every now and then again on the podcast.
Fair warning.
Fair warning.
Yes, speaking of...
So Ben, let's talk about our first movie. Would you like to
Yeah.
introduce everyone to what we'll be talking about?
Today, we will be talking about the 1984 classic, The Terminator, from filmmaker James Cameron, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton.
Linda Hamilton!
Yes. In case you don't know about The Terminator, here is the synopsis from IMDb. A human soldier is sent from 2029 to 1984 to stop an almost indestructible cyborg killing machine sent from the future, which has been programmed to execute a young woman whose unborn son is the key to humanity's future salvation.
You know, typical stuff.
Yeah, you know.
No, super normal, typical stuff. Yeah, absolutely. It's not like that's only 9 years from now that that's supposed to be happening.
Oh my god, I know, right?
It's super weird. There were several times where I was like, wow, this is weird. It's not wrong, but it's not right either. There were times where I was like, okay, this didn't happen in like 1988 or whenever it was that they said in the movie that it was supposed to happen, but like, okay. This feels like maybe I could accept this maybe more today, understanding lots of things about our government, specifically. All right, hit me with your first rule. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a rule that I do not suggest that you pick. Do not pick this rule.
Throwing it out there, all right.
Oh my god. Like, I picked it originally because I'm like, oh, this could be fun. And then, like, halfway through the movie, I amended it, and it was still a whole lot of drinking. So the draft, the first draft of this rule was, drink every time someone shoots a gun.
Oh no. Had you not seen this movie before?
It's been a long time since I've seen the first Terminator. I'll get into that in the second episode. But halfway through the movie, I amended it to drink every time someone shoots a weapon that isn't a laser. And even then, there was still a whole lot. There's so many.
That's too many.
So yeah, don't...
Way too many shootings. Do not do that.
Way too many shootings. Don't do that. I think I might change that to take a drink every time something explodes.
Oh, that's a good one.
There's less of that than guns being shot off, but there's still a lot of explosions.
Yes.
There are a bunch of explosions. So,
yes.
I just wanted to give forewarning that you probably shouldn't pick this rule.
No.
Even if it's the only one.
The only way you should be picking that rule is if you're playing it Thunderstruck style, where each time it happens, the next person in the room then takes a drink, and it just goes, every time there's a shot, it goes in a circle. That's the only way you can play that.
That's a great way to play that rule.
Because otherwise you'll die. And if you're playing it that way, that's the only rule you can really use, because you have to be paying attention to whose turn it is and who's going next and when the shots are going off, especially like later when there's like the police unit raid, like you have to be like machine gun style paying attention to who's drinking. So I like that idea, but yeah, that is its own game if you're gonna be playing it that way.
Your first rule.
Okay, my first rule. Take a hit every time they show wheels on the ground. It happens a lot at the beginning and then doesn't happen as much towards the end, but there are many shots of wheels on the ground to the point that it was like, okay, James Cameron, I get it. You like the way that this looks. Cool, thanks. So I made a note of that one. So take a hit every time they show wheels. You could be hitting from a joint or a blunt or a bowl. I was playing with a bowl in mind so that you're not super fucking yourself up every time you hit one of these rolls. You know, if you want, that's fine.
So are we talking like all kinds of wheels? Like the tank counts and like...
The tank, the cars that the Terminator hijacks. I think that there's a shot of Linda Hamilton's scooter wheels on the ground at one point as well. Yeah, take a hit every time you see wheels on the ground.
Okay.
The later into the movie when they're just like running around, then that starts to happen a lot less. But yeah, it's beginning of the movie heavy. That's a way to get yourself in a nice mood. All right, next rule.
My next rule is drink every time someone says Terminator.
Oh.
Yeah. It doesn't happen a ton in the I mean, it doesn't happen until like the middle of the movie, but after that, there's a bunch. So, you know, when you have rules that are really beginning of the movie heavy, this is a nice rule for later on.
It's a good balanced one. It's a good idea. Take a drink whenever a new gun is introduced. There's a fucking shitload. As you're going to figure out, I also make up drinking rules just because sometimes I'm like, this doesn't really translate to smoking or like a smoking game. So sometimes I'll throw out the drinking rules. I actually have quite a few drinking rules for this one because there was just so much. There was so much happening in this movie. I was like, oh, but I want to do this too. So, again, smorgasbord. Choose whichever you'd like for your own consumption.
Yes.
Your next rule.
Drink every time someone says Connor. Yeah,
that's a good one.
There's a few different people that they may be referencing, but all of them are Connor, so it all counts.
I have a related one to that. Take a hit every time Sarah specifically says Reese or Kyle. It's one of the things later half of the movie where she says it so many motherfucking times in a row. So I was like, well, I have to make a note of that one.
Yeah. That reminds me of a rule that we had when we played the High School Musical drinking game, and you had to drink every time they said a variation of Troy Bolton's name.
Oh, so you just drank the whole movie then?
Yeah, that happens a lot.
It's like the whole movie.
Yeah. Alternatively, you could also play every time they say Wildcat, and that is also drinking the entire movie.
Again, I don't want to die. That's not... That's okay. No, thank you. I'm already just a little bit too old for High School Musical, but I have sisters who are younger than me who are really into it, so I'm very familiar with how often they say that word.
It's also a very bad idea to drink wine while playing that drinking game. I learned the hard way.
Please do not play a drinking game with wine. Do not do it. Like, maybe champagne. Maybe, like, a light rosé. Maybe. Like, please, God, if you are thinking of doing this with red wine, put it down and walk away and pick literally anything else. Like, do not play drinking games with red wine. It is a fucking disaster waiting to happen. You were going to be very upset with yourself.
Yes, you will. Learn from our mistakes, partiers.
Yes.
We're just giving you a warning.
That comes from many years of experience. Do not do that. Also, don't play Slap the Bag. It's bad. I don't care how young you are. It's the fucking worst. Slap the Bag is a game where you take the bag out of a box of wine and you hold it upside down and you open the spigot and you open the spigot and then the way that it passes on is the next person next to you slaps the bag and then you drink it until you can't take it anymore and then you turn the spigot and you pass it to the next person. Also, don't do that in Corona. It's a horrible, horrible way to spread disease. But it's a thing that it's a game my college friends played many times. Don't do it. I've watched people play it on a bus once. It's like I went to college in the time of Four Loko and people did wild shit.
So wild. Don't do a beer bong of Four Loko because that's don't play beer pong with Four Loko.
I've done that.
Was but
great.
I didn't feel great the next day.
No. Again, learn from our mistakes. Do not do these things.
I mean, Tour de Franzia is a pretty safe post-Corona drinking game, right?
Fair,
you have your own bottle of your own box of Franzia. You just have to be the first one to finish it.
Oh my god, for real. For real. Oh my god.
Oh man. So my last rule, take a shot when the Terminator says, "I'll be back."
Oh, that's a good one. I was going to write something down about that line, but I like that one. Take a shot. I have several other rules.
Oh, wow.
I'm not kidding. I wrote down a smorgasbord of rules. It's literally like over a page. So I'll just fire through mine.
Go for it.
Okay. Take a hit every time Arnold punches through a window. Or anyone, really. Sarah does it at one point, so if you want to include all punches through windows, that I feel like that's acceptable. That's up to your decision as the viewer, how many people you want to hit for every time someone punches a window. this is my personal favorite rule and might be the one of those that you only need this just one rule. Take a drink every time there's violence against a police officer. That's it. That's the whole rule. And like, as the movie goes, it's like, oh, it happens a couple times. There's a few of them, and then it's like, oh, okay, I should just drink this entire bottle of whatever I'm drinking. So that's a caution on your own hand. You choose how you want to use that. That's why I said a hit too. Like it's sorry, I did say a drink. You can also play this as a hit and have a gentler experience. Take a hit every time a main character changes their clothes. It happens several times, and there's three main characters, basically. So, I mean, I guess you could also count the roommate as a main character because she feels like a main character at the beginning, so if you would also like to do it when she changes her clothes, that's fine as well. Take a drink every time a piece of Arnold falls away. So when his eyebrows are gone for the first time, when that part of his eye falls away the first time, when his skin starts to fall away, take a hit for every one of those. Or a drink for every one of those. Either one is fine. Falls away or is irreparably damaged. We'll just be a little wider on that net that we're casting. Take a hit every time a new vehicle is acquired by one of the main characters. This also happens several times throughout the movie. All of them are kind of in this like chase a game, and Arnold's like, I'll just take whatever fucking car I want. So each time they switch over, take a hit. I said this one already. Take a hit every time Sarah says Reese or Kyle. Mm-hmm. Finish your drink, whatever it is, whether it's alcoholic or not, when you personally realize who John Connor's father is. I'm a big fan of those kind of rules where it's the individual viewer like, oh fuck, it's this person's family, or oh my god, I know who the dad is right now. Like, when you personally realize it, then that's when you should do it. And if it's when they're banging, then that's okay. Some of us get there later than others, but we get there eventually. So whenever it happens in the movie, finish your drink. And then my last one is take a shot. This is my only shot rule. Take a shot every time there's a super obvious Nike product placement shot. There are at least two of them.
So many. I mean,
shoes
there are
down.
At least two of them. Yeah,
I'm thinking specifically of Reese when his shoes like drop down from the car and from the phone or the photo booth. But yeah, there are several very obvious product placements. That's why I said just Nike product placement, because there are a bunch where it was like, oh yeah, it's the 80s. This is when this is a thing that people were just like, zoom in the camera. We paid a bunch of money for that. So that's it. Those are my smoking and drinking rules. Yeah. Congratulations, everyone.
We made it through episode 1, part 1. Hopefully you found some rules that you think would be a good time. So go out there, rewatch the movie, or watch it for the first time. I watched it on Hulu.
I watched it on Amazon Prime. It was free to do that, so it's easy to acquire.
And join us back next time as we talk about what we thought of James Cameron's The Terminator.
And until then, you can follow us on the internet. You can follow me on Instagram at NYDEarnGenC.
I'm at BSilverio20 on Instagram and Twitter.
I'm at Shanty Showtime on Instagram and Twaberry on Twitter.
You can participate in the conversation by using the hashtag Time2Party. That's time, the number 2, party.
A huge thanks to Marlon Longid of Marlon and the Shakes for our theme song, and April Moralba for the podcast art.
Yes. So, until next time, partiers, partygoers, we'll come up with a name for our listeners.
I like partygoers, actually. Party people.
That's pretty fun, right? Party people.
Party people.
Party people.
What's up, party people?
Until next time, party people, be excellent to each other.
Party on, dudes.